Welcome to the Today's Leader podcast. Building tomorrow's best leaders, today.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul, I see you. All right, finish. Let's go.
Great job, guys.
Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to episode 402 of the Today's Leader podcast, Building Tomorrow's Best Leaders Today. We provide proven expert advice and strategies for leaders at all levels to strive to get to the next level. So whether that's a career leap or business growth, the podcast has something for you. If you're an emerging or ambitious leader or an emerging and ambitious leader, please check out the Emerging Leaders Masterclass at tomorrowsbestleaders.com. Isn't it time you leveraged your potential and get ready to prepare for your next role? Check it out today at tomorrowsbestleaders.com. It's my pleasure today to introduce you to Myles Anderson. Now, Myles is the CEO and the co-founder of BrightLocal, a technology company with a mission to help marketers become brilliant at local search marketing. Now, founded in 2009, BrightLocal is an independent, bootstrapped business with a focus on profitable and long-term growth. It's growing at a rate of 20% a year. 20% a year. BrightLocal now serves over 6,000 customers. It earns $9 million annually and employs 190 people across remote teams in the UK, Ukraine, and Philippines. Please bear in mind, this podcast was interviewed prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So Myles does talk about the impact that having the Russian troops lining up on the border has had on his remote team in the Ukraine. But the thing that really excited me about this conversation and talking with Myles was not the fact that SEO or search engine optimization is such a vital component for today's entrepreneurs and leaders, especially if you want to be found by your customers. The real bonus that we get today is the conversation that we have about leadership and the development of high performance teams. And as the CEO, Myles has a daily focus on expanding the leadership capabilities throughout the business, fostering a deep sense of accountability at every level, and strengthening the highly supportive company culture that aims to make BrightLocal the best place that any employee will ever work. It's a fascinating conversation, it's insightful, and it provides you as leaders to so many tips on how you can build and develop a performance culture that's going to provide great outcomes for the organisation. So after a word from our sponsor, Think and Grow Business, it's my pleasure to welcome Myles Anderson to the podcast.
The podcast is brought to you by Think and Grow Business, the home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
And it's my pleasure to welcome to the Today's Leader podcast, Building Tomorrow's Best Leaders Today. Please welcome the CEO and co-founder of BrightLocal, Myles Anderson. How are you, Myles?
I'm very good, Tony. Thank you very much. It's nearing the end of my day here, probably the start of yours. But it's great to be on the podcast. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love technology. You know, I'm sitting here in sunny, miserable, rainy Queensland, and you're sitting there on the south coast of England.
Yes, I am, which is equally sunny, miserable, and rainy as you. I'm glad that you're not sitting there basking in amazing sunshine. I'm here wishing I was there. You've put me in a better mood.
It's been a very strange summer over here in Australia, but anyway, neither here nor there. Tell us a little bit about your story and the business that you now have called BrightLocal.
Yeah, of course. So BrightLocal is about 13 years old now. It is based in Brighton, in the south coast of the UK. We are a marketing and analytics SaaS business, so software as a service business. We cater to marketing agencies, digital marketing professionals working inside brands, and the kind of key is in the name, BrightLocal. It's about local marketing. So we work traditionally with businesses that serve their customers in a local area. It could be a business that you go to, like a restaurant or a shop, or it could be a business that comes to you, like a gardener or a plumber, or it could be professional services, any of those kind of local businesses. And we serve a whole range from the very small to the pretty sizable.
How long's BrightLocal been going for?
So we started in 2009, and we are a bootstrapped business. So we've been growing ever since through our own sort of reinvestment of profits. We've been profitable since 2012, so 10 years of profit, roughly growing around 20% year on year. We've got around 6,500 customers, predominantly in the US. We're a UK business, but the US is sort of surprisingly and by kind of serendipity our kind of biggest marketplace, even though we actually don't have a physical presence in the US. So our presence is in kind of Europe, sort of physically. And we're up to around $11 million a year in turnover now. We have around 200 people in terms of our internal team, some of them based in the UK, in Kiev in the Ukraine, and we also have a big operation in the Philippines as well.
Okay. So it's interesting that a lot of your customers are from the US, and I suppose that's a real testament to the global positioning that we can all achieve within our businesses nowadays. I've got a couple of clients in the US. I wish I had more. But it's that ability for us to be able to move out of our local, still support our local communities, of course, but pick up clients from anywhere in the world. I think it's fascinating. So you've got a team of 200.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about the culture that you have within the team. And they're spread over a couple of locations. So tell me a little bit about the culture.
Yeah, sure. So we have three offices. So UK, which is our head office, Kiev in Ukraine, which is where we do our engineering and web development from. And in the Philippines, we have about 115, 120 people, and that's customer support, back office, and they deliver one of our service elements that we provide alongside the software that we deliver. So one of the challenges I'll talk about in a minute is how to get that culture replicated across three locations that are geographically very far apart, and financially and economically quite far apart, and then culturally even further apart from the other dimensions that separate us. Our culture is very much a people first business. The reason we started BrightLocal, my business partner and I, back in 2009 is we came out of what we felt were substandard work experiences in the first place. We felt that we hadn't worked in businesses that were particularly meritocratic. They were quite political, and we felt that we were, in a sense, square pegs in round holes in these organizations, often pushed pillar to post by the whims and needs of higher ups without clear explanation of why. A bit dissatisfied, essentially. And so we kind of came together and we started BrightLocal as a project, actually as a marketing agency. And as we kind of grew pretty quickly, we realized that there wasn't a lot of software built for us. And actually, we realized that building a software company, a product business that can be run on a subscription basis was actually a great way to scale. So really what kind of brought us together was this desire to basically have a home in a work environment that we hadn't had before. And so at the core of BrightLocal, it's about people. It's about creating a work experience where people can really feel that they're themselves. They don't have to have a work persona and a sort of personal kind of persona. They bring their whole selves to work. It's incredibly supportive, and at the heart of that is ensuring that people feel incredibly kind of motivated to give their best. And we feel that's one of the ways that we have to scale the organization is really fostering a high sense of intrinsic motivation in our team by firstly giving them a clear purpose in terms of what they're looking for and how they kind of contribute to the business. So a business mission, but then also how do they as individuals kind of line up and kind of contribute to that. Also give them a lot of autonomy, saying, look, we bring in the right people, this is your remit, but your remit, you can bust right out of that if you want to. If you see a problem or a challenge elsewhere in the business, go and claim it, rise up and ask why we're not doing something better in that area. Bring it to our attention, and we'll work together to improve it. It's about creating a sense of belonging as well, so creating a really kind of united culture common set of beliefs that starts right from the interview process, where we bring in people using a beliefs-based interview that gets them aligned around our kind of company beliefs, and also makes them, ideal fit sort of team members for the existing team members that are in the business. So kind of getting people who are not from the same backgrounds as us, not from the similar kind of walks of life, but people who've got the same moral compass, same desire to be treated in the right way, and the same desire to kind of work in the right way. Give them all that autonomy, bring them together, give them the tools, and enable them through a lot of training, support, and coaching to improve their skill sets, to gain new skills, to expand their knowledge. And so far, the experience has been great. Like I said, we've been profitable for 10 years. We've never had any outside investment. We grow 20% year on year, and we're now up to $11 million a year in revenue.
Tell me more about the beliefs-based interviewing process. I'm fascinating because we often hear about behavior-based. How does that differ from beliefs-based?
Not that much. I mean, beliefs kind of, they kind of guide our behaviors. So we actually have 8 beliefs, which I usually tell people that they go, "What? How can you have so many beliefs that people can wrap their heads around and make use of every day?" And it does take a little bit more time. And the beliefs are quite specific, but they really are the kind of guiding principles around how people should behave. And there's nothing in there about profit. There's nothing about winning, about beating competitors or making money. A lot of it's around being proactive, being positive, taking challenges, growing from those challenges, being supportive, enjoying work is actually kind of one of our beliefs, because we try and run as much as we can, do a 9 to 5 operation where people have good work-life balance. Because as a sort of self-started business, we're in this for the long term. We want to continue growing steadily over the kind of many years to come. So we say, look, we're not on a sprint. We don't want people to burn out, feel resentment, get stressed, and want to kind of leave and find something new in life. We want people to put down some roots for a long time, stay with us here, we'll really invest in you. You'll obviously kind of gather lots of domain knowledge and skills and experience, and then we want to kind of put that to good use, not over 2 years, but over 10 years, ideally, if we can allow people to keep growing, improve their quality of life through, sort of sharing the spoils of their success and the work that they kind of deliver, but also particularly giving them room to kind of grow in terms of their own careers, and presenting as many opportunities as we can do for them to expand.
Yeah. Now, of course, none of this happens instantly, or none of it happens by chance. So tell me about some of the learnings and lessons that you had while you were creating this culture.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in the early days, we had an essence, an idea of what we wanted to do, but we were really kind of fumbling around in the dark. I mean, partly we were very, very bootstrapped for a good 3 or 4 years. We didn't have the opportunity to really invest in much kind of training, and so there was the promise of this sort of future opportunity. But the early people that kind of came in, they actually helped to kind of create our beliefs. We sat down together as a group, and we wrote down what was important to us, and we pulled that together as a kind of larger group and sort of made it happen. So it's very much from the ground up, rather than a sort of top-down imposing of what the kind of company beliefs are. I would say over time, as the founders have stepped away operationally, in the early days, we had to do every single job. I did customer support, I did sales, I did design. I did it all pretty badly, if I'm honest. And now I'm delighted that we've got specialists in the business who really know how to do those things a lot better than I do. But that actually gives a little bit of breathing space so that we could think about this a bit more. And then as it got a bit bigger, I was able to bring in someone who now heads up our people, purpose, and culture. That's their sort of official title. And they are my sort of right-hand person in terms of helping to go deeper and deeper into this kind of culture side. But I think that probably, as we started to formulate these ideas, we started to build things like our beliefs, and we started to awaken to the idea of having a beliefs-based interview. We started to see a real inflection point in terms of the people we brought into the business. Before, sometimes a bit by chance. We had to kind of go off a bit of I think this person's the right fit. I think they'll do well. We've got a little bit more scientific now with both the kind of beliefs interview, and what we do now is we actually get 4 people, a sort of panel, who are usually quite junior team members. Some of them relatively new. I did one today actually with a girl who has just passed her internship in our design team, and she's today became a full-time team member after 4 months. And actually today she was doing a beliefs interview for her future boss. So someone who will come in and be her line manager. she got to conduct this beliefs interview, and she did incredibly well. Actually, it was a real sort of testament to her. But you imagine how powerful that is for someone who we want people to really believe that the beliefs matter. They're not just words on paper that get stuck in a drawer and no one looks at. They are living, breathing elements and fabric of the sort of business. And nothing proves that more when you put them in the hands of someone and say, go and interview the person who's going to be your boss, and you get to decide whether they're good enough to be your boss and good enough to join the business based on their kind of character and traits.
That's huge. That's quite startling. But it's absolutely positive. Now, you spoke about a culture of autonomy and problem solving and problem ownership. What does that mean for leaders in your organization, or do you have leaders in your organization?
No, yeah, we do. I have a leadership team. So, and that's basically all the heads of the kind of functions like sales and customer success and operations and finance and sort of marketing. And the mantra that I always preach is we should be making as few decisions as possible. My job really is to try and make as few decisions as possible and push those decisions down through the business. And the benefit I find is twofold in doing that. One, it's incredibly empowering and motivating for people to be self-directing and to feel that they are in control of what they do. And secondly, it enables us to grow faster because they don't have to wait for permission to do things. They don't have to wait to get in front of me or get in front of their line manager. They can go, you know what? I'd much rather they make a decision and apologize if they get it wrong than slow it down and ask for permission to make it up front. And because of the way we use things like our beliefs and our culture, people have a very detailed understanding of how we want decisions to be made. Like what's important to the business, what are the things to get right? Customer sort of centricity. Doing the right things by internal customers and external sort of stakeholders as well. And generally, they get the decisions right based on that. As with any business, we make mistakes and we kind of get it wrong, but because we've got a culture of openness and sort of support, we quickly recognize that and we can pivot and make amends on it. So we never find ourselves getting too backed into a corner because of it, but we are able to capitalize on opportunities because we make decisions very, very quickly.
Yeah, and right at the coalface where it's probably most needed to make the decisions, as opposed to some decision tree that a lot of organizations seem to have. So do you find when you bring so the people that come and work for you, there's obviously I would imagine there's a real attraction for some people to come and work in an environment like that. They feel valued, they can make decisions, they're self-directed. But they're also going to have some people who think that that's what they want and then ultimately don't necessarily connect in with that particular culture. How do you work with someone who's struggling with the concept of, say, empowerment or self-direction?
That is a very insightful question. I'm just going to try and consider whether we've had that problem. I mean, when we do our beliefs interviews, some of the questions focus in and around decision making and dealing with those scenarios that people will be thrust into. Generally, people. I mean, we have had people who believe because we have such an open, supportive culture that that allows them to slack off and to not take work seriously, which is not entirely what it's about at all. One of the great benefits of having a culture where people are autonomous and self-motivated, and actually the group motivates themselves rather than any top-down sort of motivation, is that people, sometimes people think that it's a bit of a free-for-all when actually it's not. So that's we sometimes have a kind of course correct on that front and say, look, you can't knock up a four just because you feel like it. You've got an obligation to deliver the work. You've got a customer service role. You've got customers who are waiting and who are relying on you to sort of be there. But some people do come from environments where it's much more rigid and hierarchical, and they're not used to having that level of autonomy so quickly. It's one of the things they're not forced to make decisions, but they quickly realise that they're able to make decisions, or when they bring ideas to people go, yeah, go for it. We have very much of a yes culture where we want to try things, we want to move forward quickly. So I think lots of people get to understand it pretty quickly and sort of move forward with it. Some people embrace it immediately, but others, really within 4 or 5 examples of making a decision or coming with a question, realize that they do actually genuinely have the power and authority to make a decision and move forward quickly.
Excellent, excellent. What about, let's talk a little bit then about attracting and retaining talent. I suppose in some respects, a culture like yours, a performance culture, would make you one of the, a preferred employer, and no doubt that you've got a steady procession of people wanting to join your organization because of what they've heard and how they feel maybe in their interactions with it. But how do you stop also your talent from being poached by other organizations? No doubt there is a performance culture there. There's no doubt that your business is growing at 20% off, and your competitors no doubt are looking at that and saying, we need some of that. So walk me through those two areas. What the role of becoming a preferred employer, and then how do you hold on to your best talent in the face of what I would imagine would be some opposition and competition?
Certainly. I mean, we now all work in a highly competitive employment environment right now, particularly with kind of globalization, remote workforces. People can work from anywhere for anybody. And so suddenly there's been an explosion of demand for skilled staff, particularly with digital skills and experience sort of behind that. So we recognize that actually people will move on at some point. I think our probably average employment length is around 5 years at the moment, but obviously we're only 12 years old, so it will kind of probably get longer. Also, the first thing to do is make sure we pay people at a level that's equivalent to the market. We haven't got the deepest pockets of any business out there, so we can't pay some of the insane salaries that some companies do, but we always pay a fair amount. Always, my view is like, don't make salary the issue. Take salary off the table. Make sure that people are getting the money they need to live a good quality life, and that they're kind of sort of happy with that. And then it's all about making sure that they have the best possible work experience. And we do that, like I said, through a lot of empowerment, autonomy, giving them lots of opportunities to learn, improve, and grow, giving them tons of freedom. We give them lots and lots of freedom. We treat them like human beings. So if someone has a life crisis, let's say it's a family member ill or something like that, then you just say, take all the time you need, solve that, deal with it, and come back. It doesn't count towards your holiday. Don't take your sick pay. That is life butting up against work, and life, in our view, always trumps work. So it's things like that make people, when they have that experience, and they go, okay, I may leave. If I leave, but what happens if I have another life experience? Am I going to get given that same care and attention and opportunity to deal with it without any of the pressure in a different company? And those experiences in a small business, they get shared around. So it becomes part of the fable of the business, essentially. And it becomes amazingly magnetic in kind of keeping people there. And I always find that actually, by being generous, by being supportive, by going over and above what other businesses would seemingly do, it may seem like you've got a short-term expense. You've given someone 2 weeks off to go and take care of a matter, and you've not deducted holiday or sick pay. Feels like you've given them 2 weeks off. But actually, in reality, you might have retained them for another 18 months because of the experience of feeling truly supported. So you get the payoff further down the line. And we obviously try and really kind of create a good employer brand. So we have got a Glassdoor profile. We really sort of amplify lots of those experiences through the website, through the experiences of team members, through video and sort of written sort of testimonials on the sort of website. And so we try to amplify that experience so others outside the business get a sense of what it's like. And actually, with this candidate we interviewed today, that was exactly the reason he came to us, because he'd read about our culture. And we're very big on diversity and equality and inclusivity as well. And he was very, very keen to work for a business that really appreciated that. He came from a sort of Southern Asian heritage, and it was really important to him that it was a business that was really sort of forward thinking and progressive on that front. And so you do find actually you start to lay these things in, and they start to have a huge impact on attracting great talent and not having to pay recruiters a lot of money, which you do generally have to do to get ahead. But then also at the other end, keeping them longer. And obviously, the more you have someone in the business, as long as they're motivated, positive, and contributing, the value just goes up and up and up. You don't want to be losing people once they've got 2, 3, 4 years worth of experience, because they've got so much built-in knowledge there that helps them again make faster decisions, navigate some of the potential sort of pitfalls around the kind of commercials of the business or the kind of product direction we're kind of going in. And so we definitely, I mean, for me as a CEO, I spend about 50% of my time, I believe, focused on the culture, focused on people, and really trying to take it to the next level through working with I've got a head of culture in the UK, I've got a head of culture in kind of Kiev as well. And I was going to talk about trying to get the same culture to translate to different countries and different locations as well. And that's something that we really have struggled with, particularly in kind of COVID times. We've not been physically able to travel to these other locations, these other offices. We've not been able to meet new team members. We've not been able to give them what we call a typical kind of BrightLocal welcome. They've had to kind of almost learn it sort of theoretically, and they've been working from home a lot as well, so there hasn't been much of that kind of in-office camaraderie. But it can be done. Sometimes the cultural barriers make it a bit slower, but they still all appreciate the same things. Globally, people appreciate being valued. They appreciate being able to make decisions. They appreciate being able to choose what colleagues they work side by side with every day. So lots of these things are very transferable. It can just take a bit more time to break through some of the kind of cultural misunderstandings. So the cultures aren't used to being given such control. They tend to have worked in more authoritarian type businesses, more hierarchical, and so you do have to get them to understand that this isn't a trap. We're not giving you authority and control to trip you into making mistakes. That's not the way it is. We want you to feel like you own your area of the business and to command it and go hard after it, and to really kind of contribute 100% to that area.
I think that's fantastic, and what you've talked about that I'm hoping is resonating with a lot of leaders is the investment that you're actually getting from investing in your people. So that investment in your people is creating a business that's growing, it's creating a performance culture. From a CEO and founder point of view, you talked about the focus that you've got now, probably 50% spending your time and investing your time in how do you continually improve in that area. What was the shift there? So obviously as a startup, and a bootstrap startup at that, you would have been like wearing 42 different hats, which most startups tend to do. At what stage did you feel comfortable starting to remove yourself from some of those other tasks and focus on where you believe the importance is?
Yes, I have friends who have sort of smaller kind of growing businesses as well, and it's one of those things that I talk to them quite a lot about in terms of that step away. And for me, it came quite unnaturally. I have a very good business advisor who, for probably about 18 months, was just kind of prodding and poking me to sort of step away from the coalface, to relinquish control. And I think the key step was to create a leadership team where we had people who were skilled in their functions and could do the job. But we didn't necessarily have leaders in those areas, people who could set the direction for their department, but also could take over the kind of line management and ultimately take the sort of mantra of pushing decision making down and do it within their own department. So really, one, it was being prompted and pushed by someone saying, you're growing too fast to not do this. The business will fall over if you continue to grow and you don't put this leadership team in place. And we put it in place initially, and again, it consisted of sort of 5 or 6 people at that time. It's now 7, and probably for the first 12 months, we had basically it wasn't really a leadership team. It was probably me sort of still exercising far too much control and meddling in their areas. And that was quickly, after a year, we realized that we weren't really moving things forward. And actually, someone said, we're having really boring meetings as a leadership team, which is quite hard hitting. It's just like, right, okay, so what do we do about this? And actually, we then realized that the people in the leadership team were pretty inexperienced. None of us had led businesses of this growing sort of this size and kind of growing as much. And actually went through a 12-month leadership training course as a group with an outside specialist who came in, and we did 12 modules over 12 months all soft skills, all leadership skills, from kind of coaching to understanding the five dysfunctions of a team. And we all grew up together, actually, kind of going through that experience. But that was absolutely transformational. At the end of those 12 months, they'd all grown massively in their stature as leaders, their understanding of how leaders should behave and what their roles were. And as a founder, that enabled me in a very short space of time to go from being someone who was pulled in lots of different meetings all the time to being someone who was very much removed from those meetings and was able to work on the business rather than in the business, which is that kind of saying that people always kind of come back to.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to suddenly find myself looking down from on high and realizing that I wasn't involved in these areas, but things were getting done. People were empowered and motivated and positive. We were still moving forward at the pace we were, and I was allowed to focus a bit more on the strategy, on the vision, but also start to build some of these extra artifacts around the culture together, and then start to translate that to other countries. So it's absolutely an essential step, I believe, to be made. It takes a bit of courage to jump in there and do it. And if you don't know what you're doing, seek outside help, because it was massively transformative for my team and I.
Excellent. Who's inspired you in your journey, Myles?
So I'm a very optimistic person. So Simon Sinek, who's a well-known sort of author, I believe he might even call himself an optimist, has inspired me a lot. I particularly like his writings around the infinite game, which is basically has allowed me to think about how I run the business differently. I don't no longer think about being competitive with others. I no longer get sort of frustrated and worried about what kind of competitors are doing. We're much more inward looking as an organization. We're much more focused on improving ourselves and beating ourselves day after day, in the belief that we work in a big enough marketplace. There's plenty of opportunity for everyone. We just want to be better tomorrow than we were today. And so actually that also allows us to be very people focused. And because we're also not owned, we don't have any outside shareholders, we haven't got to work under anyone else's agenda or sort of time frame that they're working to. We can very much set our own course, control how we achieve the goals that we want to do, put people at the heart of everything, and we're really just out there to improve on ourselves each day. So Simon Sinek is someone who I've read a lot of his books, listened to a lot of his sort of talks, and I find sort of very inspiring.
Absolutely. Tell me about your relationship with failure.
Yeah, it's a complex one, actually, and I'll talk about it maybe in two different parts. Maybe me personally, and then actually with the company. So for some reason, I've always had a feeling of being a little bit inadequate in myself. I'm the youngest of three. I have a very smart brother and sister who I get on very well with, but I think I always felt slightly in their shadow when I was sort of younger, and I've always sort of felt that I've been playing catch up, for most of my life to try and prove, maybe just to myself, that I'm on a level with them, and so. I feel like failure for me is a big kind of driving force. Actually, before I started BrightLocal, I worked for a large sort of matchmaking company called eHarmony, big US sort of organization, big kind of product business, and I got made redundant from my job there, and it hit me incredibly hard, and I hated the experience with such an intensity. But really honestly, I felt like a total failure when it happened, and I had young kids, and I was so frustrated and disappointed with myself after that experience. I swore that it would never happen again. I swore that I would be in control of my kind of future, and that I would be a role model that they could kind of look up to. And so failure for me personally, I feel as if I've always been. It's the thing that drives me on almost every day. That not wanting to let BrightLocal slip, not wanting to fail, and so it's a huge motivator. It's the fire in my belly, and so that's the kind of the personal relationship I have with failure. From a work perspective, from the company perspective, we take risks every day. We move quickly, and I know that when we do that, we'll make mistakes, and we'll fail at sort of various things, and we encourage the kind of team to do it. And actually, when you industry that's as competitive as us, and you've got customers moving very, very quickly in terms of their demands, we have to kind of keep up. And to do that, you have to take risks, you have to move quickly, sort of failure comes. So I really embrace failure on that side. But for me personally, it's a bit of a kind of driving force. It's the thing that gets me out of bed, at 6 a.m. every day. It makes me work as hard today as we did when we were 2 people and we had absolutely no revenue at all. So I just want to kind of keep going, keep maybe putting a little bit more distance between me and that guy that got made redundant and felt like a total failure.
Excellent. Great answer. What about the vision? What's the vision look like for BrightLocal and yourself?
Well, our vision is, our mission is to help every marketeer become brilliant at local search marketing. That's our sort of stated kind of company mission. But for me, I want to work and live in a world where collaboration and support are, the driving forces in the way people interact. Sadly, it's not the case, and I can point to the current situation my team in Kiev are facing, where they have Russian troops massed on their border, and those troops are kind of governed by a man who seems to be completely unable to collaborate with anyone unless he can control them. And so I hope for a future where kind of collaboration and support are the watchwords which we kind of rule ourselves by. And I believe that the way I can contribute to that bigger mission is to create such an environment at BrightLocal where we do cherish the individuality of each team member, but we do that in a culture that really focuses on collaboration and teamwork.
Absolutely. Another great answer. How can people connect with you, Myles, if they've listened to you today and it's touched them deep inside, and hopefully there will be, how can they make contact with you?
Well, I would love that. So please do. If you have any questions or you want to make contact, please do. You can find me obviously on LinkedIn. It's Myles Anderson, Myles spelt with a Y, slightly unusual. Our website is brightlocal.com, and you can kind of contact me or contact any of my team through there. My email is myles@brightlocal.com. It's Myles with a Y, so MYLES at brightlocal.com. Please do get in touch. I'd love to talk, love to share and collaborate.
Excellent. And of course, those contact details will be in the show notes. Myles, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and listening to the successful way that you've built a performance culture. Thank you so much for investing in today's leaders.
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, Tony.
And now, it's time for Tony's 2 cents.
It's really exciting when I get to talk to leaders that get it. They've got a successful business, they've got a growing business, and part of the reason for that success and part of the foundation of that build has been they've got a powerful culture. Whether it's an empowered culture, whether it's a performance-driven culture, the culture has enabled the business to grow. And that's what we have with this episode today with Myles and BrightLocal. BrightLocal is a great example of how having a focus on culture can have a real impact on the success of a business. And if you're a leader that's looking for evidence that investing in your team is a great way to build your business, this episode is the evidence. I rest my case, Your Honour. I particularly liked it when Myles talked about the journey that he went on with his leadership team, with that 12-month leadership development program they did with an outside consultant. How it built bonds as they learnt together, they tested things together, and ultimately they grew together. It built powerful bonds within that leadership group. And I've seen this happen personally when leaders do that with their leadership team. It's powerful when a leader goes on that journey of development and learning with their leadership teams. But I've also seen the impact where leaders invest in leadership coaching or group coaching or workshops for their leadership groups, but then they don't participate themselves. It's like they're limiting the opportunity to really grow and build those bonds with their leadership teams. They don't participate themselves. So they place themselves above the need for growth. Now, in these situations, there's still impact. But it's not as great. The leadership team are on a journey with their leader. They grow, they get better, but the leader of the business, of the organization, of the team, isn't part of it. Why leaders do that? It's a multitude of reasons. It could be ego, it could be fear of being found out, it could be the fear of being vulnerable. They may think they're above it. There are many reasons. But how can a leader reinforce the learnings from the development that your leadership team is receiving if you're not part of it? If you aren't participating? If you're too busy, too important to embrace the concept of learning with your team? That's something for you to ponder on and think about. Hey, thanks again to Myles. It was a great conversation today about BrightLocal and the performance culture that he has developed. And of course, his links are in the show notes. If you're looking to build better leadership skills, check out the Today's Leader website at todaysleader.com.au. We really are driving a leadership revolution to build tomorrow's best leaders today. Today's Leader is a collective, the mindset to make a difference, the ability to create an impact. Think and Grow Business hosts our Today's Leader Mastermind. Think and Grow Business, where we focus on personal, professional, and business growth. Book your free 30-minute discovery call right from the homepage at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au. Don't forget, wherever you are standing stronger, braver, and wiser. Don't forget the golden rule. Don't be an arsehole. I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.